If I could choose only one of 3 deduction board games, The Search for Planet X, Cryptid, and Alchemists, I would probably choose Cryptid. And the reason for that is that during the game, information is revealed to all players at the same time, meaning that aside from a little piece of secret information that players start with, everyone is always working with the same set of data. Furthermore, I appreciate that the designers figured out a way to make a deduction game without being assisted by an app. However, those exact same arguments could be turned around. For example, I could say that because Cryptid is the only game that exposes information to all of the players, it really makes it less of a game and more of a contest of who can keep track of and synthesize data and make logical conclusions the fastest, which might not be so fun for people who would like more of a game and less of a competition of logical ability. In which case, a game like The Search for Planet X is perhaps better because just a little bit of luck kind of evens the playing field for everybody, even those who don't want to work so strenuously in their minds in order to resolve a logic puzzle. Or I could say that it is because of an app accompaniment that a game like Alchemist can be so much more richer with much more going on than just solving the logic puzzle. Either way, it's not a simple answer, and I haven't even mentioned what the games are about or how they're played, but that's exactly what I'll be talking about in this video. If you've never played a deduction game before, or you're not sure what they're about, it's very similar to a logic grid puzzle or a Sudoku, where a large portion of the game is focused on solving some puzzle that can be deduced from facts that are revealed during the course of the game. There are 3 very popular deduction board games: The Search for Planet X, Cryptid, and Alchemists. And I'll discuss each of them in that order. So first, I'd like to compare the theme, or what the game is about, and how well that theme is embodied in the gameplay. So the first game, The Search for Planet X, is about finding a currently unknown and mysterious planet in our own solar system, and this is supported with incredible mechanics. The game pieces are models of observatories from real life. The game board features an Earth that revolves around the sun, and during the game you can only make theories or observations about the currently visible night sky, and even the player screens are really well made. It seems like the only element of the game that isn't thematically supported are the logic rules that are involved to find out the location of Planet X. These logical rules are things like an asteroid must be next to a gas cloud, or a dwarf planet must be across the solar system from a comet. If you can forgive logical rules that have no physical analogy to our actual solar system, then The Search for Planet X is the best implementation of a theme in these 3 games. It feels like you're a researcher or an astronomer looking for a planet, and that's what's really important when scoring theme. If you compare that to Cryptid, the strength in Cryptid is not the theme at all. It actually feels like a very abstract game, but at least it's very simple to explain. I would give it a very low theme score. But the idea is that you are researchers looking for some creature in an environment where you have hints about its habitat. And the hints are things like, it lives in forest or it lives in desert. Or another one could be, it lives within 3 spaces of a green structure. It doesn't really have a lot of meaning, but it lends itself to very easy rule explanation. And then somewhere in between is Alchemist, in which you are an intellectual and academic who is trying to make potions and make conclusions about chemistry in like the Middle Ages. And so there's all kinds of silly things going on, but if you can make potions that heal or make potions that will curse people, then you can make more money and become more renowned. But more importantly, in order to make potions successfully, you need to figure out what the ingredients are all about. And you do that by testing experiments, which is the mechanism through which the logical hints are delivered. Unlike The Search for Planet X, which feels very scientific, Alchemists is a lot more fun, but there's a lot of criticism about publishing academic papers and having them be peer-reviewed, and it makes the game feel like a satire on academia, which is honestly a lot of fun. Now I'm going to talk about the mechanics of these 3 games with a focus on how the mechanic of deduction is exhibited. In The Search for Planet X, Players are scored based on how successful they are in publishing theories about the celestial bodies that they're studying. While the end of the game is triggered when Planet X is found, and Planet X gives you the most points, there are several other celestial bodies, such as gas clouds and dwarf planets and asteroids, that can give you points as well. So, to find information about these things, there are a few actions that players can take during their turn, and every action takes a certain amount of time, which is what causes the Earth to rotate and progresses the game. The first action is a survey. Take this as an example. I could survey sectors 2 through 8, and I could be looking for asteroids. So I would use the app to type in the sectors that I want to search and what I'm searching for, and the app would tell me how many of those things are in that area of the sky. It doesn't tell me where, it just tells me how many. If I wanted more specific information, I could take the target action, which allows me to specify one sector, and the app will tell me exactly what's located there. The catch with targeting, though, is that I have to use one of my tokens, and I only have so many for the entire game. Also, a token can't be used to discover Planet X. In fact, Planet X is so mysterious that you can only identify it once you identify the things surrounding it. The third action you can take is the research action, and this is the mechanic of the search for Planet X that really makes it stand out in my mind. When you perform a research action, you use the app to look up some hint about one or two types of celestial bodies. That information is the same for every single player, but when you gain access to it depends on when you take that action and which research action you decide to take. So it's very possible that at any point during the game, some players would have access to more information about a few types of celestial bodies than some of the other players. There could be a player who never takes the research action and doesn't have access to any of it. It all depends on the approach they want to take when they are surveying the sky. That varying access to information can have a big outcome in the game because, for example, if research action F is a better hint than research action B, the players wouldn't know that, but it might give some player a little bit of an upper hand, and of course, other players will know that that player took research action F. They could take it if they choose to, but they don't have to. That's the element of luck that really mixes it up and keeps it interesting for all players. I liked it, but sometimes it kind of frustrated me because it seemed like that player didn't play better to get that information. It's just luck. And sometimes luck is a really good thing. Those are the three actions that can give you information, but during the game you also have to publish theories, and you can gain information from seeing whether or not yours or your opponent's theories is correct or incorrect. Cryptid is a very simple game with very few rules. It begins with each player getting access to one hint about where the monster could possibly live, what its habitat is. From that information, it's possible to identify one and only one location on the board that is consistent with everyone's hint. So, during the course of the game, you can do only one of two things. You can either point to a space and ask one player, can the monster live here? They're going to answer yes or no. If they say yes, they're going to put a circular disc in that spot to indicate that that's a possibility. If they say no, they're going to put a little cube. So discs and cubes are all over the board, reminding everyone of where the monster could possibly be and where they can't possibly be. The other action you can take is you can just search one area on the board, and you can say, I search here. You put one of your own discs there because you can only search in areas where the monster could be according to your hint, and then everyone goes around the table putting a circle or a cube in the same spot. If any single player puts a cube, the monster can't be there, but if all players place a disc, you've found the monster and the game is over. There is nothing more to the game at all. Just two actions and the game ends when the monster is found. I think it's incredibly elegant, and whenever I see elegant games like that, I always give them a very high mechanics rating. So if Cryptid has a high mechanics rating and is very intuitive, Alchemist is the polar opposite. Alchemist is so much more complicated. In Alchemists, you are making potions using any two of 8 ingredients. Each ingredient is secretly assigned to a corresponding alchemical. The alchemicals are the mystery that is behind the mask of the app. Only the app knows which alchemical is assigned to the mushroom or the frog or whatever. But when you mix a potion using any 2 ingredients, the app will reveal what kind of potion results. So you might get a positive blue potion, or a negative red potion, or a positive green potion. And then the rulebook has a guide to what alchemicals will result in what type of potion. So, from mixing different combinations, you can make conclusions about what the alchemicals might be. That information comes out through a few different actions. One is making a potion for a student. Another is making a potion for yourself. These 2 actions are essentially the same thing. The app tells you what the result is from mixing 2 ingredients. Another action that you can take is publishing a theory. And publishing a theory is just announcing to everyone, I think this ingredient is associated with this alchemical. Now, that might be true or false, but there's an action you can take to help you know for sure. You can try to debunk somebody's theory. When you attempt to debunk them, you specify in the app what the ingredient is and what aspect of the alchemical you think could be wrong, and the app will tell you whether it's wrong or right. And from that, you can use that information to find more data about alchemicals. That isn't all that's going on, though. You have cards that you need to draw and play and other kinds of actions to take. There is much more going on in Alchemists, which can make the game very enjoyable for people who like complex games and maybe too heady. And for me, it had almost too much overhead because the alchemicals have 3 aspects themselves. It's a lot to think about, but it's a lot of fun once you get practice playing it. For mechanics, I would say that all 3 games have ingenious rules, although the one that is the most elegant and the most intuitive is Cryptid. When it comes to luck, the game with the most amount of luck is Alchemists, because you can't make any conclusions unless you draw ingredient cards to make potions in the first place, and you can't control what cards you draw. After Alchemists, the Search for Planet X has just a little bit of luck, because you don't know going into it which of those research hints is going to be the most helpful. And then finally, Cryptid hardly has any luck at all. There's information that comes out in the beginning of the game, and then all the information is revealed simultaneously to everyone. For strategy, Alchemists blows the other 2 away. Alchemists is the only game that allows you to publish a theory and let that theory stand whether or not it's incorrect. See, in the Search for Planet X or in Cryptid, there is no way to lie. If you publish a theory and that theory is wrong, it immediately is revealed that it's wrong, and everyone learns that immediately. In Alchemist, you can actually choose to deliberately publish a false theory just to deceive other players, and that makes that game very strategic. Also, the way that scoring is affected, you get points if you debunk, you have to mitigate for the luck of the cards you draw. So, okay, I don't have exactly what I want, so I'm going to use these cards to do that. There's a lot more to think about, and it makes the game very strategic. For the other 2 games, they have comparable strategies. In Cryptid, this strategy is which tiles you choose to reveal information about, because when you select a tile on the board, you're implicitly suggesting information about your own hint. Furthermore, when an opponent places a cube on the board, you must respond by placing one of your cubes somewhere on the board. So Whenever they give you some information, you have to give them some information. And you need to decide, what information do I want to give them? And if you're strategic about it, you can try to give as little information about what you know is true as possible. The search for Planet X, you're not getting as much information from other players, but you are having to plan carefully when you want to retrieve information, because at any time you can only scan or target parts of the sky that are visible. And you know the Earth is going to keep rotating and the sky is going to keep changing, so you have to plan when you make conclusions during the game. For complexity, Alchemists is definitely the most complex game of the three, and might even be a caution for many players, because the alchemicals thing is so much more complicated than finding one monster or finding a few celestial bodies. The search for Planet X is just a little bit more complex than Cryptid, which is the simplest of the three games. So those are my thoughts on 3 fantastic deduction board games. They are certainly not the only deduction board games, and I didn't even mention social deduction board games like hidden identity games. But if you've got a great recommendation for a logical deduction board game, will you let me know in the comments, because I want to find some more myself. Maybe I'll make a list of the top 10 or something once I've played enough different games of that type. Thank you so much for watching this. If you'd like to learn more about board games, how I rate them, and check out deals that are published regularly, check out my website at theperfectboardgame.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.